Yo, what's going on guys? I'm Mike from MOBOXgraphics.com, and in this video tutorial, we're just gonna be doing a simple micro interaction, and it's heavily inspired by Jake Dugard over on Dribbble. You can check out his profile. He's doing some really cool stuff over there, but we're gonna be continuing our micro interaction here, kind of following in his footsteps here with this social sharing icon. It's obviously gonna be different, but I saw it and I was inspired by it, so I felt like I needed to tell you that. He actually made his using a program called Printable, so I think it's like fully functioning, but this is just an animation in After Effects. So let's just go ahead and jump here into After Effects and create our version of the social share icon. So we're just gonna start by creating a new background layer, layer new solid. You could also hit Control Y, that's the shortcut. And I'm gonna make it white, which looks good. And so I'm just gonna make sure I lock that layer so I don't accidentally grab it. It's kind of one of the things that I do every time I open up a composition, just because I always end up messing up the background and then it's just a nightmare later on. So I already added some icons here. I've got a mouse cursor, which these are just the layers for the mouse cursor. I have a Twitter logo, I have an Instagram logo, and a Facebook logo. When you actually download this on our Patreon account, these will all come with it, but I don't know if I should be sharing it with you, but you could download them for free on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook's websites. So this is for educational purposes only. But if you want these icons, you could just, of course, just go download them off of the respective social media sites. If you just type in Twitter logo, you'll find the site. So I'm not going to drag them into my composition yet. And I also have my mouse cursor here, which again, you'll get if you download it on Patreon. So I'm just going to start by just making a rectangle really simply. And I'm just going to center up the anchor point by pressing Y on the keyboard and moving it to the center. And then I'm going to move this just to the center and lock it into the center of the white block. So I'm just going to add some text here. I'm just going to center up the anchor point again, pressing Y on the keyboard. It doesn't quite look like is it centered? Yeah, that looks centered. I think the text is maybe a little too large, so I'm just going to hit S on the keyboard and scale that down. So again, obviously you can see that this is like heavily inspired by his, at least in design. The animation should look a little bit different. So to get the rotating aspect that I'm going to be looking for, I'm just going to create a layer new null object. And I'm going to make this set to 2 views. So what this does is this shows me the front view and the top view. Since the share and the black box are both 2D layers, they'll just appear as a 2D layer no matter which way you view it. But when I make this a 3D layer, you can see that it disappears. And the reason is that we're looking at the top. This is a very thin plane. There's no thickness to it. But with this null layer, I'm going to make it also 3-dimensional. And I'm just going to move it back slightly. So what I'm basically doing is I'm looking at this distance and I want that to be about the same. I can open up a grid here just to kind of line it up a little bit more. Basically, it would just be the center of a square or a cube or a rectangle if it was in 3 dimensions. So now when I parent the shape layer, which I'll call button, when I parent the share, I'm going to parent the share to the button, and then the button to the null object. When I rotate the null object, you can see it it doesn't rotate about the square, it rotates about the null object. And I could have moved the center point of the square away, but I just chose not to. I think this is a little bit better. So I'm just going to rotate this until it's barely visible, which is about there. So it turns out to be about 89 or negative 88 degrees. It's barely visible. And now I'm going to add my icons. And I guess I can make this back to 1 view. Drag my icons out here. And apparently all of these icon companies use the same dimensions, so that's nice. So they're already the same size. So I'm just going to scale them down to size that I want. And I'm just going to kind of move them out. If I open up my grids here, I could better track where I want them to be. So I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I can move this about there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Move that there. I think I missed one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I'm a little too far to the right. So get rid of these grids. Once I make these three-dimensional objects also and parent these to the null, you can see that when I set a keyframe for -88, which I'll move over, bring this to 0. You can see you get something that kind of looks like that. So I'm going to move the share button above the icons, just so we don't get any unwanted icon movement, but that looks pretty good. We can make this a little bit more interesting if we would want to. Maybe we add a position keyframe here and we have these starting maybe up. And we hit K on the keyboard. A little bit closer. I don't know, I actually kind of just like it when it's real simple. So now for colors. So I guess I should probably just bring in my mouse cursor now. Scale it down. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to, how should I get these, how should I make these colors work? I'm actually gonna use, here's what I'll do. I'm gonna duplicate these layers, just Control D. And so I have them on top. And these bottom layers, I'm just gonna select and go Layer, or Effect, I'm sorry, Generate Fill. Make these black. And I can't see them because they're under the colored logo, so I'll make the colored logos invisible. And then I'm going to select all three of these bottom logos and hit T on the keyboard and bring the transparency down. Just like that. And when the mouse cursor goes onto these layers, the colors will show up. Now, this Instagram logo is just black, but I think Instagram does have a colored logo. So if you're curious, this is kind of what it looks like when you request access to these logos. Maybe I won't add these logos, but when you go to the websites and download them, you could just point them to these files. So I just select the type online media and I just hit download and it actually just downloads the icon for me. All right, now we're ready to go. Took a little bit longer than I thought, but we are here. So I'm just gonna make this transparency 0. And I'm just gonna mess with this mouse cursor now. So I think this mouse cursor should be scaled up slightly, just S on the keyboard. And I will add a drop shadow to it. Okay, I think all of our layers are in now. Now we can start messing with some things. So I'm only really moving position, so I'm just going to press P on the keyboard to get position, set a keyframe. Move this over. I'm actually just going to press U on the keyboard as well on that null object so I can move these keyframes over. So I think that's slow. I think a mouse goes a little bit faster than that. And I will add some smoothing using this Motion 2 script. If you don't have the script, you could do it in the graph editor. I just hate the graph editor and I suck at it, so I'm using this plugin by Mount Mograph. You can get it at mountmograph.com. So now you can see that there is a little bit more urgency in clicking share. And if you're curious, this is what the graph looks like. So once it's there, we're going to have an ellipse that we want to be white. We're just going to center up the anchor point. Y on the keyboard, move it over, and I'm just going to kind of put this near the pointer and underneath the pointer. And what this is basically going to act as is the person clicking. So I'm just going to bring the transparency down, T on the keyboard, to maybe 45%. Hit S on the keyboard, set a keyframe, and bring this down to 0. Press T on the keyboard, set a keyframe, and then U on the keyboard to see all of your keyframes. And I'm going to scale this up and bring the transparency down, and again add some smoothing to this. And this is what graph you're looking for. It's just kind of like an easy ease, realistically. To get a similar effect, you could just right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, and then you could adjust it within the graph editor if you want. So okay, so it clicks. Now we want this to spin, so I'm just going to move these keyframes over. Again, smoothing these out. Okay, that looks cool. And obviously these new Instagram logos that we replaced were not actually attached yet, so let me just attach those and make them 3D layers. And while I'm here, I'm just going to add motion blur to all layers, turn motion blur on, and make sure all of these are continuously rasterized. I think except the mouse, because the mouse has some drop shadow that kind of gets messed up. Okay, so an important aspect here, you need to make sure you have this composition. All of these are also 3D layers, or else it won't work when you continually rasterize. Okay, and that's another problem is now we have this layer that's spun. So I'm just going to press R on the keyboard and rotate this 90 degrees, as well as this one 90 degrees. You won't have to do this if you just did it right the first time. So if I did it right the first time, you won't have to respin that. And unfortunately, the position is also messed up. Okay, so that's still not working. Let's actually go to 2 views again and see what's going on. See, that makes it very clear that these 2 Instagram layers need to be pulled forward. I don't know why those went in so far back, but this should fix the issue. Yep, that fixes the issue. Okay, now we're ready to go. Okay, so we'll have the mouse go to the Instagram or go to the Twitter. Set a keyframe because he's going to pause, and then go to Facebook. And I don't want this to be a perfectly straight line because nobody really actually uses stuff in a straight line. And he's going to pause, and he's going to go up to Instagram. So I'm just going to delete that last keyframe and set a pausing keyframe because I want him to pause. And then he's going to go to Instagram. He's going to pause. So basically when you click on this icon here, it adds a keyframe at that current value. So I'm just going to now bring this icon down. So let's see what we have. So I think it all looks pretty good, but it's all happening really fast. So I'm just going to select all the keyframes holding Alt. I'm just going to drag this out. So that looks good. I think I'm just going to drag this keyframe out a bit. And as he pulls down, I want this whole item to re-rotate down. So I'm going to set a keyframe. Actually, what I could do is I could just copy these keyframes, Control C, Control V, and then just swap them around. Maybe I want it to occur a little bit lagged. And copying the first mouse cursor keyframe and pasting it over will complete the animation. Let's see what that looks like. So obviously that last keyframe is really fast. I'm just going to drag that out. And I think that that's a little too straight. So maybe do that. Or what if I just delete that keyframe altogether? And just move this over. So one problem I'm sure that you've been able to notice so far has been the fact that this share button leaves a black mark there. Because of the angle, you can never make it perfect. So one way around that is you could actually just make it transparent, or you can cut the layer. I'm just going to cheat and make it transparent. So I'm just going to press T on the keyboard. What layer is that? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the splashing cursor. I want the button. Just press T on the keyboard, move over one keyframe, make it 0. And then just before, I'm going to make it 100%. And 0%. So you could tell that it almost imperceivably comes into frame. Okay, now all I need to do is add the colors as the cursor goes over. And since these are only going to be highlighted once, I don't even have to use transparency. I could just cut the layers, which obviously you won't want to do if you're going to kind of do a lot of animation here. But I don't need to, so I could just hold Alt, left bracket, just like that. And right here, left, Alt, right bracket, drag that over. Do the same for Facebook. Alt, left bracket. Alt, right bracket. For some reason, when you Alt, right bracket, it leaves like one frame. I don't know why. If you know why, please let me know. Okay, so let's see what this whole thing looks like. So I think it looks good. I think the beginning is a little slow. I think I could bring this in. And I also think that this whole thing maybe needs to even overlap that a bit. Wow, I can move all of these frames over. I'm just tightening up the animation now. Putting things into the position that I want them to be. So I do that often. A lot of times I do set up my animations and then later on I actually move everything into position where I would want them to be. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new. Again, thank you so much to Jake Dugard for his amazing work over at Dribbble. He's inspired me for this project and many other projects. So be sure to check out him. I'll try to add a link to his Dribbble down in the description. But if I forget, all you have to do is type in Jake, Jakedugard, Dribbble into Google and you'll find him. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching.